It's Jaji.
Welcome, my G's and Gzettes. It's Jaji here, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're actually going to be covering the May 11th, 2026 episode of Monday Night Raw in Raw Fallout. Now, I'm really excited to discuss this episode because I feel like it's showing that the WWE is paying attention to us. You know, recently we've been showing how there's been a lack of creative, a lack of direction, and there aren't any new stars for them to push. However, they definitely showed that they have something up their sleeve. They continue to push the Sol Rucas, the Javon Evans, Ethan Pages, not even to mention Obafemi and the Bron Breakkers, who already feel like they're on that path to being established. They're like one step away. I feel like in a period where a lot of the older stars, the already established stars, are retiring and moving on, the WWE is in the transition period, almost like the new generation in the mid 90s. In that time, you had Hogan, you had other stars that were moving over to WCW or plain out retiring, and gentlemen like Diesel, like Shawn Michaels, while they were stars, they weren't fully established yet. Right now, if you give the WWE a little bit of time, they will definitely come up with something worth watching, and this episode was exactly that. Without further ado, let's get right into it, because the gentleman we're going to be discussing in the first topic to open the show, he's holding his own weight. To open the show, we have Roman Reigns coming out of his SUV, and the dude is carrying different levels of aura. I can almost say he's exceeding the 2022 to 2024 Tribal Chief era of aura. You know, this man with the upcoming release of Mortal Kombat shows he's a different level of star. His willingness to push young stars and not just feed his ego and say, I need to take every single win. It shows in his storyline with Jacob Fatu, and honestly with every other matchup he's been willing to have. I mean, after his WrestleMania matchup with Cody Rhodes, what was the first thing he did in the post show? He pushed Obafemi. He said, Femi, you want this? Build yourself up, and we'll see where you're at after the summer. So I think Roman Reigns is definitely the guy, and finally falling into that image that Vince McMahon had for him back in 2012, 2013, when he was trying to cram Roman Reigns down our throats. You know, Roman Reigns is met by Adam Pearce, where he then reiterates Jacob Fatu. If he does not acknowledge me as our contract states, he will be fired. Then Raw immediately pivoted into the next segment, probably one of the main faction segments of the show. The actual arena portion of Monday Night Raw started with the beautiful Lillian Garcia. By the way, I'm so glad that she's back each and every episode. The actual arena portion of Monday Night Raw opens with the Vision and Paul Heyman spitting his usual rhetoric, while you have Bron Breakker in the background, and he looks just physically imposing and menacing. And the only thing I can take from Bron Breakker is that he is ready. The only worry I have about him is that right before he got injured, actually one of the causes of his injuries was his almost recklessness. You know, in some of his spears that he's shown, he's done, he misses completely. He'll hit somebody in the, I think one time he hit Seth Rollins in the thigh. And I feel like if he can learn how to rein and harness his wildness, he's definitely ready for that next level. And don't be surprised if by SummerSlam, if you don't see Bron Breakker as a champion, you bare minimum see him competing for a World Heavyweight title or a WWE Championship. Apart from that, you have Logan Paul and Austin Theory also getting some mic time. And although people are giving them a hard time, I really like how well they play off of each other. The two are two different types of egos, and I really love how they're adding that element, almost the Ric Flair-esque element, because further into the show, you have Austin Theory and Logan Paul getting interviewed by Jackie Redmond, and right before they're about to leave, the camera pans right inside of their SUV, and you can catch a quick glimpse of Maxine Dupree, and I was cheesing from ear to ear, because this is exactly what Logan Paul and Austin Theory needs. They need to have that braggadocious side of them, and not just them saying it. Now you have to have the women behind them, the wins behind them, to kind of prove it and give them that credibility. So I really enjoyed that portion and that almost character development for those two. You then had the Street Profits come out, and ultimately this set up a 6-man tag with Joe Hendry and the Street Profits against the Vision, Bron Breakker, Logan Paul, Austin Theory. But the Street Profits come out, and one thing that I want to say about the Street Profits is that I feel like their gimmick is becoming stale. They've been on the roster for X amount of years, and from day one they've been with the little red solo cup. You know, the only change, the only character development they've had is Montez Ford's solo cup is bedazzled now, you know. But again, this goes into creative listening to us and paying attention to what we want. The Street Profits are clearly getting some attention now with their developing relationship with Seth Rollins. You know, further into the show, Seth Rollins comes in, causes a distraction, and they ultimately get the win. It's showing not only development in the Seth Rollins and the Bron Breakker / the Vision feud, but also a development with Seth Rollins' new relationship with the Street Profits. Again, I'm all here for it. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins are two amazing wrestlers, and I would only love to see them have that character development to allow them to stick around the WWE, because I feel like we've seen time and time again these tag teams and just being in stale acts, and eventually they just linger on in the roster before ultimately getting released. And Lord knows the WWE is big on releasing wrestlers nowadays. One thing I did want to get into about the 6-man tag match that I found actually pretty funny was towards the end of it, Bron Breakker's like, hit the ref, hit the ref. And I'm just thinking to myself, if this was real life, like, that would not fly. You know, if this was real life, the dude, he was speaking loud enough to where the referee would have turned around and heard him and said something. But obviously this is kayfabe and everything's playing into the script. And so I just found that that little portion of the match hilarious. Right after that match, we get into yet another segment, which is another thing pertaining to the show. But we get into another segment between Adam Pearce, OG Grande Americano, Dominic Mysterio, and Liv Morgan. Essentially what this segment goes into doing is setting up the match between Dominic Mysterio and OG Grande Americano for the AAA Championship. Now I really love this touch, not just because it's something different, but also it's giving AAA some type of notoriety. It's giving them another look. I think the WWE YouTube page has been posting up their show every Saturday, and I've been catching an episode here and there, and their production, the level of entertainment, it's world class. I think everybody should definitely be paying attention to what AAA is doing down there in Mexico and what WWE is doing. I believe The Undertaker is the one booking the show, so that's another incentive to go ahead and watch that. But other than that, I think this was great for Dominic Mysterio as well. I feel like ever since the WrestleMania match between him and Finn, the dude has been kind of lingering. You know, I'm not saying Dom is losing any type of momentum, but he's definitely teetering that line and going dangerously close. Obviously this was before they set up this match, so I think this was definitely a plus for Dom, OG Grande Americano, because it gets him another look in front of the American crowd. And overall, Raw, you know, Raw and AAA, they get to benefit from this and the attention that the AAA title gets from a nationally televised audience. After this, we go into yet another segment. So actually, before I continue, I want to get into this about the show. It was great. It was excellent pertaining to creative, pushing the right stars, developing the correct storylines. However, there's absolutely too many ads going on, too many segments going on. And I know this is a topic that honestly it's been beaten down over the past couple of months, but I just, you can't overstate it. We're one match in, and this is the 4th segment that we're getting into on Raw. Now, I understand it's a 3-hour show, but the WWE could definitely do with giving some of these younger stars the extra TV time when it comes to the matches. They just mentioned the John Cena Classic, which doesn't even depend on a winner. Honestly, from what I'm understanding the tournament is, it's more so about the talent showcasing their talent and their skills in the ring. So I feel like if WWE wants to push that, then they should definitely be pushing, if not longer matches, then put on more matches and just less segments. To get into the next segment, you have Penta coming out saying he's a fighter champion. I love him and his English and his accent. Penta is just amazing as a wrestler, as a character. You know, I'm all here for Penta and the cero miedo. But then he's interrupted by Ethan Page, who's then interrupted by Rusev. But what I really want to get into is Ethan Page. This kid has shown amazing talent, and I think he has an extremely bright future. One of the things that WWE is showing that they're lacking right now is a real old school heel. You know, we have Logan Paul, we have Gunther, but those guys are getting heel burn off of almost outside things. Logan Paul's hated because he's a YouTuber turned wrestler and he just gets natural heat from that. Then Gunther's hated because he was pushed, he retired John Cena, he retired AJ Styles, and it was almost like he retired them with no background. They made him a Legend Killer 2.0, but there was no story before, no story after, no story in between, really. So I feel like the WWE has really been lacking in that real classic heel, almost that Chris Jericho-esque, where we hate him because he's so good at his job. Ethan Page is showing a lot of signs of being that guy. He even elevated the IC title in the middle of his segment, something that not many men have done. Yes, Penta's done the whole, I'm a fighting champion thing, but they're also doing that. They've done that with the US title. So we need something different to elevate both of these mid-tier championships. And I feel like Ethan Page just simply stating the IC championship has been used to elevate all future world champions in the WWE. Just stating something as simple as that can go a long way for adding prestige to the Intercontinental Championship. And Ethan Page has shown time and time again that he's ready to take over the reins as the top heel and to even become that mid-tier champion that almost makes that mid-tier title feel like a world title. I see a lot of big things in Ethan Page's future, and I'm definitely looking forward to that Saturday night main event match on May 23rd between Penta and Ethan Page for the IC title. In the middle of that segment, you have Rusev coming out, and although I thought Ethan Page and Rusev were going to serve some type of tag team, it's clearly showing that they're probably not. Rusev comes out and says, listen, buddy, before you skip the line, I gotta get my opportunities. Javon comes out, he says how he needs to get his opportunities, and essentially this turns into a match between Rusev and Javon Evans. I'm all here for that. I really like this mean streak that Rusev is on, and then Javon Evans is obviously, he's the Jeff Hardy of today's generation in my eyes. I remember a time where everybody was saying, it was going viral for a while on Instagram and social media, saying Jeff Hardy was like every black kid's favorite wrestler, and I feel like Javon Evans, who is a black male, he's like this generation's Jeff Hardy. He's eccentric, he's athletic. This dude has a lot of energy and a lot of potential, not only to become somebody who we can get behind, but as a future champion. I'm all behind Javon Evans, and I think he's another guy with a bright future. Anyways, to get into match action, we have Javon Evans versus Rusev, and it begins with a lot of offense between Javon Evans, but then he goes to take it outside the ring, and Rusev just ambushes him with a mean right shoulder. Things turn around from there. There's a mean back and forth, and the match ultimately ends with an OG cutter. And you can literally see, I almost felt the pain in my back when Javon Evans landed after hitting that OG cutter, and he was wincing. And the first thing I thought was, oh boy, at some point, Javon Evans is gonna have to change that. We see the damage that the RKO has done to Randy Orton in his back. I can only imagine what an OG cutter every week, every day is going to do to Javon Evans by the time he's 30. Like right now, he can take those licks at 21, but 28, 29, 30 years old, it's going to be difficult to continue to hit that top rope RKO every single night. I would like to see the development of the OG cutter in the future as well. But to end it, Javon Evans takes the win, and I think this was the right choice. Again, it shows the WWE's changing of the guard and their willingness to push these young stars. Rusev doesn't lose a thing. He still looks like a dominant heel, a dominant mid-tier heel. I would actually like to see him get a run at the Intercontinental Championship, or if not, at some point move him over to SmackDown and give him a US title run. But I feel like the work he's been putting in over the last couple of months with Javon Evans, with Ethan Page, with these younger acts, he's definitely a guy who deserves a run at something. He deserves to be rewarded for sure. Next, you're met with the seemingly official retirement of Asuka. And I gotta say this, I know the WWE is just this, it's a show, but this was the most soap opera like ending I've ever seen this show do. Like, you had the fake tears and Asuka and Io Sky sobbing, but a good point that I can take out of this is I loved how Asuka seemingly with that hug passed the torch over to Io Sky. Io Sky is already the #1 female wrestler on the roster today, and this went to further cementing that. I love the WWE almost willing to usher that in, and hopefully this turns into another championship run for Io Io Sky. She deserves it. She's been putting great work week in and week out, and I feel like the next match that we're gonna discuss between her and Sol Ruca only shows that, because not only can she work with the Rhea Ripleys, with the Oscars of the world, but she can work with the young up-and-comers like Sol Ruca and put on amazing matches. Sol Ruca and Io Sky was yet another match of excellence. It was a young up-and-comer in Sol Ruca versus an established superstar. She's a veteran, but I'm not gonna really call her a veteran because she's the now in Io Sky, and they put on a great match. I actually saw there was one point where Sol Ruca went to go hit the Blue Thunder Bomb, and just Io Sky took a nasty bump on the mat, and you just saw her head bounce, and I felt that on the back of my head. I only hope that doesn't come back to bite her in the head, as she suffered her fair share of random injuries in the past, But other than that, the right person took the win in Io Sky, and Sol Ruca has a bright future ahead of her. She didn't lose any momentum at all. She got to showcase her talent, her athleticism, and Io Sky got to showcase why she's the best in the world today. I really love the ending to it. I haven't watched NXT as much. I'm more big on the Raws, the PLEs, the SmackDowns, but the reversal of the Soul Snatcher from Io Sky was so creative. I think that was an amazing ending to a match, and again, it was deserving of probably one of the top matches of the night for sure. Next, we have Oba Femi. And of course, while we all love some Oba Femi. And of course, we all know that this man is set for big things. He's the next Brock Lesnar. He's a giant. He's a guaranteed future champion. But I feel like these weekly challenges, at least to me, is already getting stale. Before he established his weekly challenge, he was already doing squash matches every week. And unless this challenge is going to bring just that, real challenges, I feel like it's gonna become very stale very fast if all they're gonna do is continue to push random squash matches like the one they did tonight with Oba Femi and those Garzas. Originally, it opened up with Femi opening the challenge. Adam Pearce comes out and says no wrestler on the roster will accept the challenge, which I feel like coming next week, this will probably lead into Oba's next big storyline after the Brock Lesnar feud. But just Oba coming to the background and pulling Los Garzas from gorilla position and just throwing them around the ring. Again, it was a great spectacle for what it was, but I really do hope that this challenge brings something more than just a bunch of squash matches. Another person who I'm curious what WWE Creative is doing with is Finn Balor. They keep teasing him. They keep teasing in almost, I'm not gonna say a main event push, but some type of prime TV time. And ever since he brought out the Demon, beat Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania, it kind of feels like Finn Balor's right back to where he was, which is just lingering in the background, playing just that, a backstage character. This segment especially pans to Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough walking over to the arena for the match against OG Americano, and Finn Balor shown ambushing JD McDonough, and he just smiles at Dominic and he says like, good luck kid, you're gonna have to do it on your own. And while yes, that was a cool piece to show that this was gonna be an even one-on-one match between Dom Mysterio and OG El Grande Americano, at the end of the day, it also showed that the WWE Creative has nothing for Finn Balor. What are they doing with him? The WWE he's not on SmackDown to even discuss the WWE Championship, and then Roman Reigns is clearly entrenched in a feud with Jacob Fatu. Finn Balor is far from a world title scene right now. He's not feuding for any mid-tier championships, as Pence is feuding with Ethan Page, and he has Rusev kind of mixed in there. So what are they doing with him? If you guys see some type of sign, please let me know below, but I don't really see any type of clear direction for Finn, and I have no choice but to feel bad for the guy. He's worked hard. He's definitely due for a push or two, really, but man, Finn Balor. The AAA Championship match between Dominic Mysterio and OG El Grande Americano was good for what it was, which was developing the storyline between OG El Grande Americano and El Grande Americano 2.0, which is played by Ludwig Kaiser. I feel like Dominic Mysterio got some shine. He also got to continue to show why he's a young superstar in today's WWE. He retained his AAA title, which kept something on him. Again, I feel like the WWE doesn't have a clear direction for him right now. So putting him in this match, allowing him to showcase his skills and then keep his title allows him to have something to continue to fight for while they find his next big feud. And then at the end of the day, it also pushed the Grande Americano feud and the mask versus mask upcoming match at Triple Mania. So I really think that's something that's intriguing. It's interesting, something to pay attention to. And the match did what it was supposed to do, which was be a main event for a show in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, what we are all here to discuss, the Roman Reigns acknowledgement ceremony. So obviously Roman Reigns is shown with only Jimmy Uso, and they walk out to the ring, and Roman Reigns comes out and he says, "Knoxville, Tennessee, acknowledge me," which I think week by week he's getting better and better at doing. I don't know if it's the acting classes, if it's the actual movies he's doing, but Roman Reigns each and every week, his "acknowledge me" is only getting better. So in the middle of him doing that, the cameras pan to backstage, and throughout all this I was wondering, I'm like, where's Jey Uso? Where's Jey Uso? Well, when they pan backstage, Jey Uso is seen right next to a fuming Jacob Fatu, and they're walking towards the arena, and Jay's just like, "Be smart, Uso. Be smart, Uso. Uso, you don't want to do this. You don't." And by the time they get to gorilla position, I'm not gonna lie, I would do this too. Jacob is tired of hearing Jey Uso just yapping in his ear. So what does he do? Well, he knows best. He applies that tongue in death grip, and he says, "Shut your damn mouth, Oos. I'm not about to yeet with you. I'm about to go to the ring and I'm about to whip some OTC." You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Jacob Fatu walks out to the arena, and in the entrance, Jimmy walks up the entrance ramp, and Fatu hits him with a nice uppercut. You get what I mean? And he walks to the ring, and then he's met with a face down, and it's an elite face down between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, and you know what's coming. It's just a matter of moments, and they come in, and it's just a bunch of blows, and it's blow after blow after blow. But the one thing that I really loved about this, which I touched on earlier in the video, is Roman Reigns' willingness to put a superstar over. Again, I understand it's his cousin, but Jacob Fatu looked unhinged and unstoppable during this segment. This man was throwing Reigns around the ring, around the outside, power bombed him through the table, tongue in death grip. He did everything he wanted to do with Roman Reigns. And another thing that Roman Reigns is really good at, which is what makes him such a great superstar, is that he sold every single move so beautifully. It was almost chef's kiss. You thought Jacob Fatu was done. He was walking up the entrance ramp, and he said, "You know what? Screw this, man. This man wanted me to acknowledge him. I'm gonna show him some acknowledgement right now. Watch this." And he ran right back to the side of the arena, and he used his own body as a wrecking ball, and he smashed not only Roman Reigns, but the Usos through the barricade. And that's when I was just like, bro, this guy is destined for some great things. And the best part about it is, I noticed the small things. In my eyes, I love how this is playing into Jacob Fatu is a new age wild Samoan. With the tongue in death grip, he has the wraps around his fingers now. He's continued, he just acts wild every single week, unhinged every single week. And it adds for an element of surprise. You never know what you're gonna get with this guy. And I love it. Whether he has a world championship around his waist or not, Jacob Fatu will always be a main focal point of Monday Night Raw and the WWE as long as he continues this streak of just aggressiveness. The WWE is lacking that. They have Obafemi, but he's like that star that WWE is pushing. Jacob Fatu is like that unhinged dude who's gonna make it with or without that corporate push. So that was pretty much how Monday Night Raw ended. I honestly give the episode an A. They pushed a lot of young stars. Roman Reigns looked like a bigger star than ever, and they continued to develop a bunch of storylines. The Penta and Ethan Page storyline is definitely something to look forward to, and that Saturday main event IC title upcoming match. And then you have Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. They're definitely set up for a match at Saturday night main event, or it may be in Clash in Italy, I believe it is, coming up on the 31st. But whatever they do, the WWE needs to continue with this type of creative push. push. I love how they're pushing the young guys. They're continuing to push the established stars the appropriate way. Seth Rollins has a story. Bron Breakker has a story. Roman Reigns is building young stars. I feel like the WWE's future is bright, and we just have to give them a little bit of time. Again, right now, we're in that mid-90s new generation era. Give them another 2-3 months. I feel like by SummerSlam, the Javon Evans, Sol Rucas, Lash Legends, Ethan Pages of the world, they're going to be a lot more established, and they're going to be established to the point where we now have our new generation. It's not we're waiting for the new generation. It's they're here. So once again, I'm Jaji. Thank you so much for paying attention to the Raw Fallout. Stay tuned. We're going to definitely drop an episode for SmackDown this Friday. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much. Make sure you hit that notification bell. You click the like button. You share with a friend and have that friend share with a friend, and tune in for any other reactions, wrestling takes, or even baseball takes. Well, you have a great rest of your day. For now, Jaji, out.
Thanks for watching. Let me know what you'd like to watch next.